entrepreneur, activist, businesswoman with an amazing resume and past and amazing stories related to all that stuff that is important to our lives right now. Both, of course, African-American history and culture for this month, the women's movement, the Me Too movement. You have a ton to talk about with that. And just her experience coming from where she started in her career after college and how it's blossomed. Let's talk to Karen about her entrepreneurism and your business acumen and everything. Karen, let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
You're just an amazing subject for this, and I'm so happy to have her here on this Friday. Thanks for coming to our coverage.
I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome.
What a great day. What a great Friday.
It's a beautiful Friday. We're so happy. So, Karen, let's talk about the beginning of your career. You were sort of at the helm of something big as one of the first African-American women to kind of do what you did. Tell us about where you started.
So I was really excited. When I came out of undergrad, I got a job on Wall Street. So my parents, my grandparents, my family, they were very, very proud that I had gotten a job at one of the storied old banks on Wall Street. My mom went out and bought a whole bunch of dresses for me and suits and scarves. I got my first Hermes scarf.
Ooh.
And it was just a sense of pride for my family. It was a wonderful moment of all of their sacrifice and hard work for me to get this job. And in my department, there were about 700 people, and of the 700, there were 4 African Americans, and I was the only African American woman.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Those numbers,
it was
right?
It was such a tremendous opportunity.
Wow.
But it was Wall Street, and Wall Street has always been a boys' club. It's always been a male-dominated industry. But as a woman, I had a goal, and I wanted to be the youngest African American managing director in the history of the bank.
Wow.
That was my goal.
So you went into it knowing, I'm going to set these goals for myself. I know I'm the first paving the way, or one of the 4 or whatever, paving the way. And so how did you sort of maneuver that goal? What did you do?
So I had a mentor who worked at another bank, and she said, when your managing director gets to work is when you get to work, and when your managing director leaves is when you leave. So I started doing that. So I would get to work every day about 7:30 a.m. and I'd leave work every day about 7:30, 8 p.m. On average. And of course he started to notice, you know, he was like, wow, Karen, you're still here. You got here when I got here, you know, and he started to pay attention. And he knew my name. And that was so amazing because he would start to look for me. Like after about 6 or 7 months, he'd start to look for me to say, hey, okay, it's time to go home. It's 8 o'clock, go home. Or it's 9 o'clock, or it's 10 o'clock, Karen, go home.
It's good to be in the eyes of your boss like that.
Yes.
So that felt, okay, so then where did that lead? You were doing your thing, you're noticed.
Yeah, that was amazing. And it allowed me to get noticed by sort of the higher ups at the firm. I was able to get on a couple of committees that were more national committees, so that was amazing. And at that time, I helped, because I stayed late, and for those of you who understand protocol of baking, because I stayed late, I answered the phone one day and got a call from the Middle East. And at that time, there was a little bit of challenge about women working on certain accounts, especially accounts of folks from the Middle East at that time. And because I handled it and did such a great job, the account team said, Karen is always going to work on this account.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
you proved yourself in multiple ways. People noticed, and you got to do something steadily that sort of also helped launch you.
Yes.
Tell me, too, about the culture. You were saying you're one of the few,
women.
First of all, one of the few women. Probably, were you one of the few African Americans as well in this office?
Yes.
It's a boys' club.
It's a boys' club.
Just give me more insight into what that felt like and how you were treated. Maybe not by your boss, but others around you?
Being a woman at that time on Wall Street was never an easy, it's a difficult thing. But you just learn to adapt. You learn to hang with the guys. You learn to allow a lot of things to not affect you. You know, you can't react. And especially as your career is moving, you just sort of deal with it. It was just a part of the culture of the firm. And if you were able to deal with it, you could move up. Now, it wasn't Wolf of Wall Street. It wasn't that bad. But
that's what I'm imagining.
It wasn't that bad, but it was definitely a male-dominated environment all the time. So you just adapted as a woman. And other women were supportive of me. They definitely were. I still have mentors to this day who started on Wall Street like I did, and paved a way for women like me. But even today, one of the things that bothers me is the amount of female leadership on Wall Street. It's minuscule.
It is.
It's minuscule.
Wow. As it is with, I guess, a lot of other jobs as well, but specifically that. We hear that in banking and Wall Street. So, all right, quick backup, because I know you're local. What's your background again and where you're from? Tell everybody where you're from and your experience.
So, my family's from Philadelphia.
Okay.
I grew up in Philadelphia. Came down here to go to Howard University, so I'm a graduate of Howard, and then most of my family followed me here over the past 20 years, so they're all here. But I left to go to New York after college, but I moved back here to work for America Online, and loved working for America Online. Well, at the time they were out in Dulles, out in the Ashburn, Dulles area, and I loved working for them, and decided to walk away from AOL and work for myself, and I've been doing that for a long time.
So that's interesting. So Howard totally launching you, ready for the big city of New York, banking, all that craziness, and then you decided to leave it, even though it was steady and it was good. It was you were making your way up that path. What made you make the decision to kind of get out of it and do your own thing?
So this will tie into the Me Too movement, because I really had an honest aha moment back in October.
When is this? This is
why I left Wall Street, because my goal was to be the youngest female managing director in the history of the firm. You know, I was going to work super hard and get promoted as fast as I possibly could to make that goal of managing director. So I loved finance, I loved business, I loved working on Wall. It was my passion, it was my dream. And my boss was sexually harassing me. And I realized just a few months ago that I walked away from my career due to the harassment. But in dealing with the harassment, I walked away from banking, I walked away from Wall Street completely.
Just to get away from that harassment.
Just to get away. And I went into marketing, and that was my path of going into marketing and branding, but I walked away from financial services.
Wow. So that was your most recent, just to clarify, that was your most recent boss.
Aha
and
moment.
That's what made you leave? Or,
no, it was my boss when I was
my
original boss,
Okay, and so what did that feel like to have to take that as your reasoning for, were you justified in that? Did you feel okay with it?
No, I wasn't justified. I should have, in hindsight, I should have spoken up. Now, even if I would have been fired, I should have spoken up. And so I'm really thankful that God and the universe has given me the opportunity to speak out now, because I didn't have the strength, and I didn't feel that I was going to be heard, that my voice would be heard at that time.
Of course.
And my boss was very powerful. Like I said, it's this male-dominated environment, and I just felt that no one would listen to me. And so I had an opportunity to go work somewhere else, and I jumped on that opportunity and I left.
Wow. So if you're comfortable, I'm curious to know more about the harassment and what exactly you felt surrounding it, and then also more about the Me Too movement and just how you got involved with it and how things kind of launched from there. So I guess all encompassing, let us know what happened to you. So
I, as I said, I would work long hours, and my immediate boss, not the managing director, but my immediate boss, about once a week, he would take us out, the people who worked for him, for drinks.
Yeah.
And it was his way of giving back. It was his way of our team bonding. So he would take us out for drinks all the time. And I would sit and drink with him and drink with my coworkers, and we would have a good time. And he would always pick up the tab. So it was a lot of fun, and it was a great bonding experience for us as a team. Maybe about 8 months into doing that, my boss sat next to me and said, you know, I want you to consider something. And I'm thinking, you know, it's a new project or it's something that's talking about. And he said, I want you to date me. And there are a lot of perks to dating me. You know, you'll get extra time off, you'll get perfect performance appraisals, you know, all these perks that he was willing to give to me, and there were more. And he said, I just need you to think about it, and, you know, I'm a good guy to date. By the way, at the time, he was probably 20 years older than I was.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to process that. I didn't know how to navigate it. I didn't know how to manage it. And I didn't have anybody to talk to about it.
That feeling.
That feeling, right. And then I carried the burden of my family and how proud they were of me having this job.
That position.
And how much I loved my job. So I naively thought, well, I can just avoid him. You know, every time I see him walking, I'll go in a different direction, or I won't go to out to the team, you know, dinners and the bar anymore. And so I stopped doing that. But of course, the harassment increased.
It did.
And he decided to do more and more and more. So eventually I went to another manager that was at the same level. And I think he was a vice president at the time, and asked to be transferred to his team.
Wow.
And to this day, I believe that people knew his reputation and that people knew the type of harasser he was. But he, like I said, in that boys' club, he was protected.
He was protected, as we've seen in all these situations in Hollywood.
Yes,
everything
he
else
was
in politics.
protected. And so I was able to transfer and get on a different team. And then I naively thought, oh, now he'll really leave me alone.
Sure.
He won't bother me.
That's what you think.
Didn't stop.
It didn't stop.
He still continued.
So that is what eventually led you down to the path to make the decision to leave that, even though your parents were so proud, even though you were on that path to that goal, but you were okay with that. You ended up you resigned to it. You went to do your own thing.
Well, I ended up going to another company, and then leaving there to go to America Online.
Oh, right. Okay, to come back down.
But at that point, I'm fully into marketing and advertising. I'm not working in financial services at all. I'm not doing anything that has to do with money or stocks or bonds or anything.
Okay.
I'm just focused on marketing and advertising.
So let's bring this all full circle and come back to present day. The Me Too movement blossoms. Harvey Weinstein's all over Twitter, all over the papers. We're seeing this in celebrity culture, in Hollywood, everywhere. You take note of this. You see it. You're active on social media as well.
I'm very active on social media.
Quick note, your handle is Advertising Diva.
Yep, Advertising Diva.
At Advertising Diva for anybody who wants to follow Karen.
Follow me.
And she's a big social media maven here. But you saw this and you resonated with it.
Yes. When I started, so there was a hashtag called My Harvey Weinstein. And I started to see women share what had happened to them at their jobs. And I shared that this happened to me and that it was extremely painful and that I had never really talked about it. And lo and behold, a few hours later, I got a tweet back from a producer of the Today Show asking if she could DM me and asking for my phone number. And I thought, is this a fake? You know, is this a Russian account?
Right? They saw your hashtags, they saw your tweet.
And so I spoke to her the next day, and she said, you know, I really want you to come on the Today Show this weekend and talk about this. And I thought, she's crazy. I haven't even told my dad yet. So I had to
about the scenario.
I hadn't told my father what had happened. So she said, call your dad, call a few friends, and I'll call you back in a few hours. And I spoke to my father. I called a few friends, one of who is here on Fox, Sean Yancey.
Oh, really?
And she said, get your butt on that train tomorrow morning. And I went to New York and shared my story on the Today Show on Weekend Today.
Oh my goodness. So what was that experience like? So you shared basically what you shared with us here about your company, what had happened. And from there, did you feel, did other things start coming to you about like sharing this with the world? What happened?
So it's really funny because when the segment aired, because we had taped in advance so they could edit it. So when the segment aired, I was so nervous and so afraid. I was literally in my hotel room with the covers covered over me. I was scared to death.
Yeah.
But since I've done that, now I'm excited to share my story. And I carry the story of other women because one of the unique things that has happened is women have approached me when they see me in public to tell me their story because they're afraid to share it publicly or they're afraid to tell the world what happened to them. And so now I carry the stories of other women and their sexual harassment story. And because of that, I have been asked to speak on this topic. Matter of fact, I'm speaking next week at the National Association of Broadcasters on this topic, on Me Too. And I have gone to Los Angeles, I've gone to New York, I've spoken here, I'm speaking with you now.
About it.
And I'm just happy that we're getting these stories out.
Absolutely.
I'm so happy we're getting these stories out, and I'm so proud of women and the courage they have to share, and if they can't share it publicly, to share it with somebody else.
Absolutely. This movement, this whole trend, as you will, is not over. You know, we were talking about it at the height of it, of course, but these things continue. People continue to talk about it. Their stories continue to come out. People are tweeting about it. I'm curious too, just personally too, was there any fear of any repercussions of you sharing this? I know this boss was way prior in your past. You probably don't have a connect with them anymore. Did you, or do you, or did you ever think, you know, what if X person calls me from this office, or what would I feel if this person comes to me about this? Do you feel any of that fear?
I have some fear. I never say the name of the firm, but I do have some fear about that, but I don't have fear of the person.
Okay.
And if he were to reach out to me, I would tell him the effect of the harassment, and that I walked away from a career that I loved and wanted. And when I was in undergrad, I worked so hard to get a job at this firm. I mean, I did everything possible to get a job at this firm, and I impressed so many people that I got the job. So I walked away from something that was very valuable to me.
It was very valuable and a big part of your life. Since then, I guess actually, what would you say to maybe somebody who's watching, or women out there who might be dealing with this, or what advice would you give about this type of thing happening today?
Well, first of all, you are powerful. And my fear in that moment was that I had no power. And in a lot of instances, we don't. Let's be real. You know, if you work for a small business or a small company, if you're in a small town and maybe you've got a good job, you've got kids, mortgage, apartment, rent, all of these bills to pay, I know it's difficult. So find someone that you can share with, find a support group, find a tribe of women and men who can be supportive to you in the process, because you're going to have to figure out how to navigate it. For those of us who work for a big corporation, there are outlets there, you know, you can go to HR, you can go to different, you know, mechanisms to report it. But for people who work for small businesses, sometimes the repercussion is that you might get fired, and you have to be able to understand what that will mean for your life, and especially to the women who are in small towns.
Right.
I worry about them more than anyone else, because if they've got a great job, it's hard to go find another good job.
There's not a lot out there. When you were going through this, did you have any of that support system? No, because you kind of kept it inward, right?
I had no support. And the women, like I said, at that time, I think a lot of people knew who he was and what kind of predator he was. They just didn't say anything. It was the culture that, oh, we're not going to talk about it. Oh, just don't work for him, or oh, stay away from him. And of course, we have this horrible thing in our society where we blame women. We say, oh, well, maybe you were dressing too sexy.
Yes.
Maybe your skirts were a little too much, or maybe you were flirting with him and he got the wrong idea. No, I didn't do any of that. Right. All I did was go to work every day.
Right.
So, yeah.
And even more beyond that, you went to work for extended hours, you impressed your boss, you know, you were on this path to your goal. All right, so fast forward to the future, let's come to what you've been involved with, I guess, in the area. You have some special things that you are very proud of, that you are involved with in the community, but particularly in the African-American women community, is that right?
Yeah, I do a lot. As a woman of color, I'm always hoping to assist and help other women of color, but throughout my career, I have met women of every background, every nationality, and I am a proponent of women. So I think it's very important as women that we share our stories. It's very important as women that we're authentic and tell the truth of who we are and our path and how we were able to get from point A to point B to point C. And so because of that, 3 years ago, I wrote a white paper for an organization that I wanted to create where women could have a safe space to share their authentic stories. And it's called the Spectrum Circle. I had no idea that my white paper would turn into the Spectrum Circle, or that the Spectrum Circle would grow to what it is today.
Yeah. So I was looking at some video right now of an award
luncheon.
Yes. For the Spectrum
I do
Circle.
A luncheon every year.
Oh, great.
The upcoming luncheon is March the 16th. So please go visit our website or go on social media and follow the Spectrum Circle.
Is the handle. Tell us more about what it is as a group.
So the luncheon is an awards luncheon where we recognize 5 innovative women in the DC area who are doing really great things. And I try to focus on women that people may not have heard of. So, because as I said, it's important as women we recognize each other, we support each other, and we share the story of what someone has overcome or achieved.
Yes.
So by doing that, the awards luncheon is our signature event. It's at the Fairmont Hotel.
Oh, beautiful. There's some
beautiful Fairmont Hotel.
You're in the yellow in this, right?
I'm in the yellow in this,
dress.
yeah. And so this is last year's luncheon, and I'm really excited for this year's luncheon.
Yeah.
And as the luncheon is growing, I mean, I'm having so much fun just planning and organizing it. As a matter of fact, next week we will be announcing this year's winners.
Oh, great.
Next
of
week.
the women that will be featured, that will be speaking?
Yes.
Or that will be, okay.
That are the awardees.
Very cool.
Yes.
Very
so I'm really
fun.
excited about that.
I love it. And this
But we also do other events. We've done events at Microsoft, at Google. We do events on different topics. So we could do one on women in media, women in digital media, and we profile those women. We do things on women in, tech or women in power. And we profile women to come and share who they are, what it's like to be a woman in that field.
Yes.
And now that I think about it, probably what happened to me earlier in my career, not having a lot of women to go to ask for advice and help, and to help me navigate the challenges I had, I needed that. And even now in my career, I needed what I didn't have. And even now, the doors that are open for me, I want to help other women come through those doors. So I created this platform so that I could help, especially the millennial. I have a lot of millennial women that follow me.
Yeah, a lot of you guys out there are millennials. You're on the digital platform.
A lot of millennials that follow me.
Yeah, I'm going to be following all your stuff in like a few minutes after she leaves.
Thank you.
But that's amazing. How would you reach out to millennial women, do you think? I know some of you guys are watching.
As a matter of fact, I'll give you an exclusive.
Yeah.
I'm going to plan something for millennial women this year because millennials are very unique. I have a bunch of mentees that are millennials. They're great, amazing women, and they're trying to change the world. And I fully believe the next generation will change our world. So I need to give them the tools they need to be as successful as possible. So I'm going to plan a conference probably in the fall, just for millennial women. So sorry, my Gen X and Boomers, just for millennials.
Love it.
To help pour into them with the tools they need. And I'm going to reach out to them to ask them what it is that they feel is a gap in their life that they need help with, especially from older women.
Awesome, because it really does change generation to generation what you dealt with at work, what you're dealing with now, what you need to move forward. It changes over the years. Everything is changing. And
sadly, it's still not equitable. We still have panels of all men. We still have boards that are all men.
Many.
The Weinstein Company was an all-male board. There was not a single woman on that board of directors. We still have a culture where, right now there are 20 female CEOs out of the Fortune 500. There's no parity. There is no parity. We have a long way to go as women.
Yeah. I was actually going to ask you about that. Where do you feel we are now? It's sad, even though we're
better,
thinking, we're future, but
we're better than we've been.
Yeah.
But it's still horrible. It's still minuscule. Look at our Congress. It's there. We are not at parity. We're not at a place where we think, oh, I don't have to search for a woman opinion. When I see conferences and there are no women, unless it's a male panel on an issue, and because it's issue related, I still see conferences where there are no women. And you ask yourself, there's no one that's qualified? There's no woman that works in this industry?
Right. And I love that notion that you brought up earlier, just in general, of women supporting women in their passions, in their loves, in their fields, and how they're trying to grow themselves, even personally, introspectively.
Yes.
Women supporting women is huge. I think it's valuable in an office, right? In our newsroom, it's valuable.
And in our personal life.
In our personal life.
Oh, look, we just saw the Rob Porter situation. So as women, to be able to help another woman in a difficult situation as that, or to encourage the women, the ex-wives of Rob Porter, who are sharing their stories so eloquently.
I've seen them.
And not to bash or harm or disparage them, but to support them, because it took a lot of bravery to share their truth. And that's why I created the Spectrum Circle, so that women can have a conversation about sharing who they are without the judgment and without the disparity.
Rob Porter, of course, the White House advisor, who's under these allegations of his ex-wives.
Yes, alleged.
Allegations of abuse to his ex-wives, two of his ex-wives. When did you start the Spectrum Circle in the whole
3 years
realm?
ago.
3 years ago. Okay.
And it is my passion, and it's
Yeah.
growing. And
I love it. Can't wait to follow it more.
oh, I'm so excited about it and the things that are happening. It's really exciting time.
Yeah. So ultimately, are you happy, even though it was under those circumstances, that you made that change from your dream of banking to what you do now? Because you love it now.
I love what I do now, but I fully admit, I watch a lot of Fox Business and a lot of CNBC.
Sure.
I miss that. I do miss Wall Street and that money and that banking world. But I love what I do now. I love this platform I've created. I probably need to do some more financial services panels and have some events.
That's your thing.
Yeah,
Right.
maybe I'll have some events around money and women in money, because that's also a critical topic that we as women need to address and share with each other. So I'm looking forward to the future, and I'm on the right path. I am adamant that God has me. I'm in alignment. That was the word I needed to say. I'm in alignment. I'm in alignment.
Really good word to use. Any sort of, to sum it all up, final summation of words of empowerment for young women, young or older women, African American maybe particularly, because we are talking about Black History Month. What would you say to them out there?
So to my African American women, I would say the sky is the limit and you can do anything. Don't box yourself, and don't allow anyone else to box you. There is no box. You can do whatever it is that you set out to do. And to all women, I would say, find your tribe, be open to receive, and to focus on how, as women, we can help each other. One of the things we do, we tend to be very siloed. We tend to just be in our comfort zone. So one of my own personal slogans is to always be uncomfortable. So push yourself outside of your comfort zone, because that's where the growth happens.
Yes. You see those charts of the Venn diagram, the two circles go outside
of it, yes.
And the growth.
And the growth happens.
Spurt.
The growth happens. And I am a testament to that. So when I say I'm in alignment because I've been uncomfortable. And by being uncomfortable, God keeps pushing.
It's amazing. And you really have. Your story is quite inspirational. Thank you so much, Karen, for joining us for this coverage.
This is so much fun.
I love it. I love it. It's fun to talk to our digital audience about this, because I know this stuff is real. It's happening in your lives, possibly. It's happening in your career. We have women out there. We have the African American community out there as well. And it's great to be able to talk to such an influential force in that community for this very special month of February 2018. Thank you so much, Karen. We're going to hope that I'm definitely going to follow you on your stuff. You can follow her on @AdvertisingDiva, her personal handle on pretty much all platforms. And then the Spectrum Circle
at Spectrum Circle.
Wonderful. It was great to kind of show that video, a little insight as to what that looked like. And glad to have you in studio today.
Thank you.
Okay,
I'm so happy to be here.
Wonderful.
Thanks, guys.
All right, guys, we'll be right back.